So how do you account for just having a willingness to maybe take risks? Because I think we can also sit here and we can find it admirable when, certain people take risks that are unlikely, and you hear stories where, like, okay, yeah, it paid off greatly, right? Like people who invested all their life savings in this business, and like that's a risk, right? And statistically speaking, how many of small businesses fail?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's more than 50%. I guess I don't know the
Whatever. It's a
stats.
lot.
But we can still look at someone who did that and then, found success if their business takes off and like it became a huge thing or whatever.
Yeah. So,
Elon Musk, who, sold PayPal or whatever, made millions,
mhm,
billion, I don't know how much, a boatload of cash,
yeah, millions.
then took it all and like went into debt or something to start Tesla
Tesla and
and
SpaceX and
SpaceX. Like
a number of
that
other
is
things.
one
Yeah.
hell of a risk.
Yeah.
But we look back at it now and we see that and they're like, and we go, "Oh my gosh, like that is so admirable. Like he built this thing, went through all these risks, and we look at that and that's a warm fuzzy story in our hearts, right? Kind of like the
Yeah.
whole thing going back to the movie. Yeah, we look at the one guy who didn't call back and it happened to work out and they had this amazing love story and we look back and we think, "Oh, warm fuzzy," and everyone wants that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what the answer is here, but clearly there are people who take those risks, go against what should be the normal expected, and it pays off. So I don't think
So,
that
what
you should never
exactly?
do that.
No. So, this is not at all contrary to what I'm asserting. What I'm asserting is understand the variables and take the risk accordingly. So, for instance, I don't know the statistic, maybe I'll look it up in a minute, but an unbelievably high amount of small business restaurants fail.
Right.
Okay? Now, I'm not crazy heavily invested into the small business restaurant side of things. Okay? But I imagine what you could do is look at a bunch of small business restaurants that failed and understand some of the things at least that made them fail. And then look at the few that succeeded and understand what it is exactly that made those businesses succeed. Maybe it's
Sure.
location, maybe it's the type of food, maybe it's a price point. I don't know what it is here. Maybe it's just a way of managing finances and attracting the right people. I don't know. But what you can do is gather additional information and try and mitigate some of those pitfalls. So, and I'm just spitballing this, but in the case of Tesla, okay, I think a big reason why Tesla, as a new startup American car company that actually made it was something like a startup American car company had not gone big and actually made it in like 100 plus years when
Mm-hmm.
Tesla made it, okay? Well, part of what you can look at there is you can say, well, you're trying to come into a market with a bunch of established players. There are a bunch of dealership locations, and manufacturing these things is. So let's say manufacturing something like an engine is like this is a highly complicated, highly complex thing that is only getting more complicated, more complex, more precise, and requires more investment over time. Okay, so for a startup to have all of those incurred costs to hope that this engine works, to hope that they can have some form of dealership network and convince people to purchase this car, like that's this crazy long shot, and the probability of that succeeding is crazy low. Well, what you can do is you can, like, if you truly understand all of those, or at least some of those underlying variables, you can look at them and try and alter it. So in the
Okay.
case of Tesla, they A, don't have traditional dealership structures. B, they're not manufacturing the same kind of thing that's highly complicated, highly complex, and has a bunch of industry knowledge like an engine. They're saying we're doing electric cars. Okay, so now you're competing in a different space. You're changing the paradigm. You're being a disruptor in the market.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. So you're not necessarily saying, "Oh, we should look at the statistics of what is most likely," or look at ourselves as, well, we're most likely average, which means we're most likely not going to succeed in this thing. Like, rather than looking at it like that way, let's use the statistic as a tool almost to dig into it and say, well, if this is something that I'm serious about, how can I dig into the factors or variables that play into the my chance for success and try to analyze what might help me achieve a desired goal. Not necessarily just to look at the statistic of how I might just be average and say, well, screw it. Like,
Yeah,
maybe you alter your expectations slightly, but also you sit here and use it as a tool to
yeah,
try and help you achieve an expected result.
yeah. So what I'm suggesting is whether it be the restaurant case or the Tesla case or whatever is out there, okay? Understand what you're getting into from a statistical standpoint, understand how certain variables affect things, alter and modify the variables to increase the likelihood that you are going to succeed, and then proceed.